Power is a racial justice organization, as I said, so we're a mass organizing project. We're very much so in alignment with the whole conference that's happening around the idea that public transportation should be free for all. And even though our particular campaign for 4 years was really about free transit for youth, always we were framing that within the context of a broader struggle that's about equity, about overcoming racism, was also about the environment, and was also about economic opportunity. And we were always looking at it on all those levels. The particular context that we're organizing in, we've been around for 17 years in San Francisco, not primarily looking at transit, primarily organizing around low-income worker issues. We started as an organization of workfare workers in the city, which are people in San Francisco who sweep the streets or clean the buses or work at General Hospital and in order to receive public benefits. And when we started organizing, it was like at the equivalent of about $2 an hour, which is way below our minimum wage. But we were able to win a lot of campaigns around that, and from that started seeding other organizing projects that are all been around racial and economic justice. And this idea of organizing around public transit really came from our members. And in particular, the Latino membership of our organization, because as you could see in the beginning, San Francisco started doing this very, very aggressive form of fare enforcement, where they would do these things called saturation rates. And it started around 2008, 2009. They would send like 14 police officers onto a bus, and it was totally, a huge impact on bus riders, because you may have even paid and lost your transfer, but also, as was said, they pull people off, and if you didn't have your ID, you could even be brought into the police station. There were 3 folks who were brought into ICE detention to be processed based on not having paid their bus fare. And then the most extreme situation, there was a young man who actually ran from the bus, and he's someone who had a record, and he got scared the police were coming on. The police actually shot and killed him from not having paid his bus fare. So we had a real crisis happening around the criminalization of just public space, and that created an opening of just a conversation where we started pushing on the city to stop these saturation rates. At the same time, in terms of like conditions that make change possible, the crisis around public education actually meant that for a long time our city's been ending our public bus system. So in the United States, there's the yellow school buses that would pick up kids and take them to school, but that's been ending, and especially kind of moving down from the older kids toward the younger kids. But the city actually announced that, the school district announced that over the next 3 years at that point that they were going to be phasing out the school buses entirely. And so that gave us an opening to begin to say, look, one, we need to stop criminalizing anybody using public transit, but for sure everybody can agree that a young person trying to get to school shouldn't be pulled off the bus because they didn't have their bus fare. And we began to do that kind of organizing, and similar to the public referendum, we did that scene in the video where there's the ping pong balls. We went out to the most populated intersections of public transit and just started asking people, should public transit be free? And we were saying that for all. Similarly, like, should public transit be free? But just beginning to build, mass organizing on the buses. And that's kind of been our real approach. I was trained actually in 2001 as an organizer with the Bus Riders Union in Los Angeles, and that model of kind of reclaiming the factory on wheels, getting out there on the buses and building mass organization was really kind of our similar model. And we didn't expect it to take 4 years, but it definitely was a hard fight. And it was really hard to particularly move the MTA board. And tomorrow, as we get into it, we could talk more about how we built that campaign and then sort of where that work is going now. But I will say the victory we achieved just last year, we had first won a pilot program for specifically low-income youth. And so I wouldn't say our struggle is completely done. So we wanted this to be for all people, and especially for youth to be for all youth and not just low-income youth, because of all the barriers that get set up around proving income and the stigma that can come with that, etc. We were able to win as close to that as we could in this moment. So they basically set the income level very high. So we haven't yet to meet someone who doesn't meet that criteria. And there's also no proof of your income. So we basically, more or less, like for various political reasons, we're willing to say it's free for all youth, but in effect it is free for all youth. Over 30,000 young people now, so that we first won the pilot program, then last year it became a permanent program. So we have free muni for all youth, and in this next year, the question of free muni for seniors and people with disabilities is moving forward, and hopefully over time we can begin to incorporate this into an overall set of wins around transit justice. So thank you.